quite the career in music writing, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
How long you been doing it?
I've written for a long time since I was a kid, like probably about like 9 or 10 years old. I was writing, but I've been up here in this town for about 5 years.
Originally from where?
From Samsula, Florida.
Oh wow! So the a little bit of Florida boy coming out in Nashville now, right?
Oh yeah.
So what made you transition from Florida to Nashville?
Pretty much it was just a combination of, Florida, just like a lot of other, markets or small town markets, you only have so much opportunity. And so I was like, if I'm gonna, I did the honky tonk, the smoky bar, seeing the pop-ups and the open mics and the karaoke's, all those different things that you try to get your voice heard. And it got to a point where I was like, I had friends that were like, are you going to pursue this? I had family asking if I was going to pursue it. And I think it was more or less like, you got to just dive into a space of discomfort. And so I know Music City is where it's at. If you're going to build a career and build the proper relationships, you got to be in the space that's, building, creating, and consuming the music that's putting it out to the cosmo, for lack of a better word. And so I wanted to bring a little bit of the swamp to the Music City.
Nice.
And so that was kind of the idea behind it. And I was like, there was been so many great, acts over the years in different genres that came out of Florida. But with country taking a turn to kind of like a new class or a new generation, I felt like it was like the perfect time for me to just, come up here and show them what I had and bring something to the table. And that's where we are.
With doing that, what would be your piece of advice for somebody throwing their stuff in the car and heading north or heading south to come into Nashville? What's that one piece of advice that you would tell them?
From like a creative or just like as a person?
I think both. I think because both can apply with your answer. I really
sure.
do.
Yeah, for me, my side is singing and songwriting.
Sure.
So you do, one thing that's really beautiful about this town and just music in general is like, you have artists that are great entertainers, have great stage presence. And so you have these writers that are, great at putting words together and creating emotional connections through different lines. And so, in country music in particular, you got a lot of the artists, really rely on the writers, and the writers really rely on the artists to get those songs and those stories told. So I would say, if you are a singer-songwriter, having the balance and understanding of what it takes to build those writer circles, get in those rooms. We have these things just like last night when I talked to you, the writers rounds, and those give us a platform to build confidence, cut our teeth. You also get a little bit more exposure because you're around people that are industry based. Mm-hmm. So it gives you that aspect as well. But then on the other side, it's just be a good hang. Come in here, just be like you are what you are back at home around your buddies and your family, and don't act like, you're better than anybody else. Just look, for me, I always try to just be a student. There's a lot of success I've had. There's a lot of things I haven't done yet that I'm still working towards. And I want to be able to constantly grow.
So, we went through this morning and you spent a little bit of time doing some warm up for your voice, and you said it takes you about 30 minutes to do that. When you are a performer, you're tending to stress that voice out sometimes. Isn't that something that you gear towards taking care of it more now that you're at this level versus when you were back in Florida?
For sure. Yeah, and I grew up playing sports, so I'm used to, coach tells you something, you just do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, for vocalists in particular, it's a muscle. And even guitar playing, getting up, working on your scales, just constantly playing the songs as a writer as well, constantly, digging deeper in your tool belt, figure out different melodies, trying to be more crafty with, it's an art form. So you got to just keep sharpening the tool and hone in on your craft. And really, I think the hardest thing for people is really trying to figure out where they're trying to go. And, I think when you're performing, you have one opportunity to make a great impression. So spending 20, 30 minutes to do lip trills and, breathing exercises and trying to get the phlegm and things like that. I get, allergies different times of the season.
Sure.
So I'm always trying to not phlegm off and things like that, so that I can project. You know, it's like my producer Kenny Royster. He always told me, he's like, listen, he's like, he's like, don't do bullshit. He's like, if you go out there and sing, make sure that when you open your mouth, you sing.
Right.
He's like, don't open your mouth and half-ass it. He's like, you go out there and you sing. And he said, even when you're practicing or writing, or if you're in the studio and you're playing around, he's like, don't ever do that. Act like you're always basically singing for your life. And that's you just gotta, condition that.
And that's a mindset change that you had to go through too, right?
100%, because I wasn't used to that. Like, I didn't know any better. You don't know what you don't know. So for me, I was like, you're around your friends and you're at like I said, you're at a bar or, a honky tonk, and you're playing on an open mic, or you're in a karaoke room or wherever the place, and you're throwing back drinks and you're just having a good time. It's like a old fashioned hoorah. Like, it's cool, it's fun, but you're not realizing that, like, that's going to keep you here. It's not going to get you from here to here.
Right.
So you just got to understand that.
So you've transitioned quite a bit from your Florida days to your Nashville days, and you've also incorporated some adventures in business into what you're doing. So your focus isn't just on songwriting, but it certainly is on songwriting. But you've kind of increased your vision as a business owner.
Correct.
Talk about that a little bit and how that played into what you're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, coming back, my background when I went to college was, in finance and in ag, and so I came in this space where I wanted to originally pursue a career in that lane, working in like the either like brokerage or like investment banking, things like, or mercantile markets. Like, I wanted to be in that space because I'd done it since I was 16. It was a framework, and for me, I was like, music, I loved it, and I continue to love it. But I was like, the perception of turning it into a career was just like unbeknownst to me. I just thought, I guess I really didn't know what to expect. I just would always see the people I looked up to that inspired me, and it just made me more creative. I didn't realize you could actually like make it be a long-term, plan where you could have a career doing it, I know obviously other artists do, so it's possible, but I just didn't know what it took to get there. And so I did a little different. A lot of people come out of high school and college and they build their music, and they're out there, playing and cut their teeth like with other bands, or making bands and falling apart, or doing like solo acts and stuff, trying to build, to a certain point. Me, I built a solar company back in Florida, All American Solar. I did that first, and as I built that solar company, I kind of used the money I made for myself to invest in me. I was like, you make this, you got to cover your living expenses. Any money I put away in savings, I just deep dove and took that and invested into myself. I was like, if I really believe in myself, I'll sacrifice.
Yep, you're going to support yourself.
Right, support myself. So by doing that, it kind of made me, in essence, I don't want to call myself like an investor in that capacity, because I didn't bring like millions of dollars to the table, but it's just like I was able to use what I had to help me, pay with time for my vocal coaching, to really work on getting better as a vocalist, to spend time on like writing workshops, to spend time like traveling back and forth. Eventually, obviously, bought a house up here, which that was a defiant moment for me, because I was coming in and out of this town for about a year and a half, staying in hotels, and everything was always good. And I made a lot of great connections, and I was playing different spots here and there, but it wasn't getting me any further. Like, it was just like the needle was like kind of relatively stagnant. And a lot of people in this town, as much as Tennessee or Nashville is a very like fast-moving metropolis, it's a small town in a city environment, and the people that make up or comprise Music City, the country music scene is not a big scene. Writers and artists and producers and publicists. It's a small community, and for me to be accepted in it, I realized, I was like, man, like why am I banging my head against a wall and not getting further? And it was like, it's real simple. They just wanted to see I was committed to the music, committed to the people in the community.
And that's really it's really a cool side of the story, but the commitment side for you that you were an athlete, so you knew the commitment you had to do as far as an athlete goes. Resetting yourself for this industry was definitely a big change.
For sure.
So your commitment to the craft, when did that start for you?
The commitment to the craft, I think, really, honestly, you know, when I was committed when I came to town, but I truly committed when I bought a house. You know, because you're not going to just buy real estate just to buy real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess you have people that invest in real estate,
Sure.
obviously, but you're not going to come into this space up here to have a real piece of real estate in town in the space of the most talented, most competitive, you know, musicians, vocalists, writers, in all of music, you know. So I was like, when I did that, that was like my opportunity where the clock started like actually ticking, and I was like, all right, I'm here.
So they call this the 10-year town. Is that an accurate statement?
I think so. I think it's definitely, you know, there's obviously exceptions to any rule. You got people that go viral, like with all the social media now, like TikToks and Instagram and Reels and things like that. So you do have those exceptions that get found in a certain space where maybe a record label or publishing house is like, let's scoop, you know, so and so, and then they put the plan behind them. There they are. You know, now it's like where they come out of, you know. But overall, I feel that you really got to put your time in. You know, like I said, for me, if I'm not at the, you know, I'm at least at the halfway mark in the worst case, hopefully sooner. But if not, you know, that's my commitment. I'm willing to put that sacrifice of that 10 years in to get to that point where I get the opportunities that are going to continue to open up doors and give me more exposure and more chances of building credibility as an artist to be a bigger name, you know, in conversation.
You know, you were talking to me last night about some different scenarios that happened with songs that you have written.
Sure.
And what I found to be, you know, fascinating is that you had attributed some things that happened in life within your song, and that you had written them a year and a half before.
For sure.
You want to talk briefly about that?
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I had some. It's not to be like you know, just make people any uncomfortable, but I think some of the most like imperfect things are perfect. Some of the most uncomfortable situations are the most necessary situations. And so for me, you know, I want to be remembered through this journey as one of the best storytellers, you know, through writing and performing, painting these pictures, telling these unspoken truths, being unapologetic and staying authentic to myself. That's very important to me, just for my character
Right.
and my integrity, right? So some of these songs in particular have taken different paths that I didn't expect. And I think it went that way, you know. God always has a purpose. Like, you know, there's always a reason why things happen, and there's a reason why people enter and exit your life and stuff. And so I want to make sure that in every song that I write, that I'm sharing those experiences of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent that I've experienced. And in particular, in the last, you know, year and a half, I've had two songs that were really just vulnerable, uncomfortable moments, but really shedded a lot of perspective for people. And the one was the Take My Land record. I went up to Maggie Valley. Actually, yeah, I went to Maggie Valley after being in Florida. I was in Daytona, and PK, Brian Kelly from FGO, he was doing his first solo tour, the Made by the Water tour. And while he was doing that, he came and did that show at the Daytona Band Show. And there's a time my buddy Ryan Charles had a song called New Boot Goofin', and it went viral on TikTok, and they were using his song as like an over him, Zeb Ross and the J Creek Cloggers of him dancing and clogging around, and it just took off. Everybody kept seeing it. And I saw the content. I was like, man, that'd be pretty cool to make some like content using my new song coming out, Blue Collar Swallow. So I hit my buddy Wells, Tony from Whaletail Media. We went out. He was like, hey, I'm going to be out here shooting a wedding in Charlotte. And so he went out there, and I was like, all right, cool. And I happened to be DMing back and forth with the Cloggers, and they were from Maggie Valley. So it was like really close to where he was going to be.
Right.
So we went up there to the stomping grounds in downtown Maggie Valley, and we went to this like dance hall, and we were really just going to make content, and we were making the content. I was just going to use some stuff for TikTok and Reels, and then it turned into we had so much like footage from me playing my song over and over that we wound up having enough to make another music video outside the video we were there for. And so then that led into, let's go into this little local spot that everybody was in town, like eating, and a little backyard, like, you know, cover band in the back. And this guy, Mr. Brian, and his son Blaze, they were there with their band playing, and we were clogging around and just having fun, you know. And long story short, you know, I was like, hey, we're going to shoot a video tomorrow. I'll take my land. And, you know, I have my own whiskey company as well, Bangtail Whiskey. And so I was like, you know, I remember, you know, going around and taking whiskey and going to like little handoffs and stuff in mud holes and concerts and stuff, trying to get it out there, you know, trying to see what people thought. And I was like, man, this would be kind of cool, like recreate that kind of experience. When we went to the Elevated Distillery, and Dave that owns the place happened to have like Popcorn Sutton, the moonshiner's like original still. And so we're, you know, one of his original stills. So we go there, and Zeb's stepfather, Terry, is kinfolk to him. So then, like, we all got together. I was like, man, like, the stars are aligning.
Right.
We grabbed the thing, we disconnected the whole still. We took it up to the top of their property, at the top of the mountain. We recreated it in the woods, and we create this, like, moonshine scene. And then we did this, like, Mexican standoff, you know. So it was like Brian and Blaze were over here. I had, you know, me and Terry over here had our guns, like they were trying to steal our still kind of stuff, you know. And there was a scene at the end. Was like, Will's like, hey man, let's just make it a cliffhanger. So he made it a cliffhanger, and we all drew the guns on each other. And then all of a sudden, like Zeb's wife Ashley was digging the two grave sites, so you didn't know which two of us died. You just knew two died.
Two died.
Right, and that led to later that evening. Unfortunately, we were back at the me and Wales were over at the hotel, and I get a call I think it was the next morning. And Mr. Brian had gotten in a wreck the night before after the video shoot. And when he got in that wreck, he got banged up pretty bad, but he survived, you know. And but the hearse that's in the vehicle, I mean in the video, it got, you know, totaled. Mm-hmm. He was like, man, this is the first and last time that hearse will ever see a screen. And but then we went to this spot where it was like a month and a half later, 4th of July. Right. I wanted to drop it with everything going on. I wanted to make something that was going to make a statement with this record. And, you know, I was like, a lot of people were yearning or searching for that confidence of like, hey, you know, I don't want to lose things that belong to me. And that was of course, you know, you could take my cash away, but you won't take my land from me, was in the first verse. And I had this idea of like, you know, pain in this muddy old creek runs deep, gonna see if you drown. Shoulda never came, drifting through this one light town. Gambler sitting on the corner, smoking handle, two snake eyes. Two night town, not meant for one. Try to take my land, you'll lose your life. And unfortunately, they were in Bryson City, North Carolina. Brian and son Blaze at the Climbers, they were all doing an event up there. And Blaze was just like over the moon, like he was so excited, pumped up. He was like, man, I got to feel like a movie star. I was in my first music video. Comes back, he's driving home, and Mr. Brian's driving behind him. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, he like swerves on the road and goes through a guardrail, like off the side of the mountain. Right. Like, you know, down into like a culvert, you know. And obviously, and unfortunately, you know, he passed away at the raw age of 26, like his whole life ahead of him. And it just made me like, I just like paused. Like I was speechless.
What was the time frame from when you wrote that song to when that happened?
It was at least a year before. I probably had the idea of the song "Take My Land" almost probably 2 years before that, but it was about a year before that I had written it, because I cut it that summer. Yeah, that summer I had cut it, and it was just like it was sitting in my shed, you know, just like in my, you know, archive, like just like where I was going to see where I was going to put it, when I was going to release it, kind of thing. It was just sitting there waiting.
I call it my file cabinet. I got everything back in my file cabinet before I pull it forward.
Just sitting there when I want to pull it out, and it was like, it was one of those things where I saw so quick, but what made it so pure and so real was the third verse of that record. I said, run fearfully to get away. You trip and fall to what the end will be. rolled down the edge of the riverbank. Shots fired, you collapsed instantly. And I was like, splash and swallow, last drops of holy water. Red scarlet darkens water where you lay. Float and drift away through the land of my family. Trespass a place you never should have been. And it was just so surreal that, you know, Blaze was in my video. It wasn't supposed to be anything but a cliffhanger. And the situation in real life it translated into real life. And that was something that I was like, just bone chilling. Because I was like, I'm not writing songs to, kill people. I'm writing songs to heal people and make them feel understood. But it just like really showed me like what my purpose was I'm able to dig into my crazy, brain of like this, it's like a playground.
Right.
And I'm constantly trying to pull ideas like, where do I go with this? Where can I take that? And how hard and how far can I push it, to the edge?
So when you created that song, your mindset when you did it was not what it was now.
No, I wrote that record because these two guys came up in my property in Florida when I was down there. They knocked on my door on this like a Saturday, and I have two hog dogs, George and Gunner, and I grabbed my shotgun. I have a doorbell, ring doorbell, and I kept seeing these people like walk around my truck, and it was just really weird. I didn't have it fenced in. My property's almost a mile off the road. You got to come up several hundred, you have to come up like 150, 200 feet to get to my door. Like, it's not like you're there. It's not like you're just knocking in a regular suburb, it's in the forest, for a reason. So it's like, why are you coming out to my property like that? And then why are you going around my truck? Why won't you just come to my door? So that's what like threw me off. And then, I gave them the option. I was like, hey, I can let these dogs go on you, or I can, pepper you right here. It's your choice, your option, They took off running, and they were just like these two Jehovah's Witnesses, trying to go around doing their thing. And I was just like, all right, whatever, they took off, never came back. And that's what gave me that idea. I was like, don't infringe. I have my own land. Don't take you're not going to infringe on my property. This is my land, but everything with going on too during, with the news and stuff, I was like, what is a lot of people looking at? It's like they're in fear, like this anxiety, social anxiety of like protecting what's theirs. And I was like, 4th of July is, coming up. That's what gave me the idea when we did the video of like when I was going to release it, because I was like, this is the perfect time to connect people on a deeper level of understanding like our founding fathers built this country on this principle of like family and small business and enterprise and owning your stuff, and making it generational. And I want to bring that back.
So you've written now for pretty much the larger majority of your life, right?
Oh yeah.
And so you're performing on stage, and all these things are happening, and the emotions of some of these songs that you talk about. How does that affect you when you do that song today?
It's every time when I go in front of a crowd, I got to this space. You always think of those like nerves when you get out on stage the first time you walk out, which I think is one of the most like rushing feelings. I love that part, because I'm always like, what am I going to do until I strum that first chord or sing that first note? Then everything starts, flowing, right?
Yep.
There's a stops in the middle of the set when I get to these songs like this, and being a storyteller, like, I kind of coined that term for me. Everybody knows like Brandon being a storyteller, he's telling these stories. I get into this space where I'm like locked in on everybody in that crowd. I like scan the room, and I look at everybody in their eyes. Like, it's almost like I'm looking into their soul.
Right.
And I pause, and I just like, whether I'm playing acoustic or full band, and I just talk to them for a minute. And I want them to understand where these songs come from, what derived them, like, but also how much I appreciate them listening, because if it wasn't for them spending their hard-earned dollar to come out to the show,
Sure.
I wouldn't have a platform to sing more.
Sure. We kind of talked a little bit about the ins and outs of Nashville, and you've got to appreciate the fan base that you've built, and you do that a lot by even walking back out into the crowd after you're done
Always.
and mixing and mingling. And that's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who's even starting out.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of your favorite venues to play here in Nashville?
Favorite venue in Nashville to play? Man, actually, I had just played it for the first time and want to go back there because it was so much fun and just the setup was so unique. Was Third and Lindsley.
Really?
Yeah, it was such a cool like vibe, like
Okay.
just like the way the way it looks out with that 2-story coming down and everybody's like looking at you. It's small though. It's intimate. It's intimate, but it's big, right?
Yeah.
And it's small, but it feels big because there's so many people like packed in looking at you. And that was a really cool spot that I really enjoyed playing. It's from a band perspective too. When it comes to showcase, it's Whiskey Jam. I mean, Winners is just like Midtown's where we hang out. So being up there between Winners and Losers and Red Doors, like that's like home for us. So, but obviously playing Whiskey Jam is something really special because a lot of great artists have started there. And when I got my chance to play there, and Ward gave me that opportunity, I was like, all this hard work starting to pay off.
Right. So Nashville, we've got Broadway, right? So the regular Nashville fans,
Mm-hmm.
they don't really feel the backside, and that's why we're talking about this today. While you are definitely appreciative of what happens on the radio and what happens on Broadway, talk about why people should engage behind the scenes. And I call it behind the scenes, but why should people engage in songwriters and understand what they do?
I think primarily because the songs wouldn't exist without it. Pretty blunt. Broadway that's Disney World. I come from Florida. I know what that is.
Yeah.
All the bachelorettes, the people coming into town, and I got a lot of great friends that play on Broadway. They make money on there. It's a living. Like a lot of great musician buddies of mine that play on tours. They go down there when they're off the road to keep their chops up. So I mean, there's a benefit to Broadway.
Sure.
But when it comes down to the experience, the magic is in the songwriters around. Like going to Live Oak, going to the local, going to the listening room, going to anything from like, Ray's Rowdy or Outside the Round or going to a freak show or Portside Pickers. Like when you get to these types of rounds and you're seeing the way that they're orchestrated and the time and the commitment that the MCs put into it and the connection that they have to us writers and artists, as much as they do the brand that they're building to create this, they're the ones that deserve the notoriety. These MCs, like the Wards and everything like that, because they're taking the time to create these spaces and sacrifice their time to give us a place to be heard. And they put it on consistently week after week after week. And they sit there and they support us. They share our music. They share our releases. They give us opportunities to play new songs and test them out against new crowds. They're an intricate part. Like, for example, when I met you, like the BMI Key West Songwriters Festival, like they come down, they're a part of those. They have rounds at those spots as well. So, yeah, I mean, if it truly wasn't for them, as much as we're as creative as we are, I don't think these songs would be heard to the way and get the opportunity to make it to be a top Billboard hit or a #1, because we wouldn't have that platform.
So I'm going to let you play a song of your choice at this point.
Sure.
And I'll let you have your own songwriter around here for a second.
Yeah. Sounds Single wide full of booze, walks away from a crowded room, stumbling back and forth down the hallway, dollar bill and an 8-ball of cocaine. Brain starts shifting to a different state, living his life like a rat race. Don't know what road to take. One wrong turn at the blink of an eye change his fate. Dirty blind as crystal blues, hands bound in bright red blues, horn honking, swerving down the 2-lane, lost control, lipstick smeared on his face. Brain start shifting to a different state, living his life like a rat race. Don't know what road to take. One wrong turn at the blink of an eye changed his fate. Feels a car roll off the paved road to a tree. Sees the glass break and hears the scream that she made. All is gone down the hole, this disaster. Touch she makes, run the blood on her face, makes a mess and sober. Red and blue, shaking in his boots. 6-8 cell, he's through. Manslaughter, 15 in a state pen. Scar for life, can't forgive his sins. Brains start shifting to a different state, living his life like a rat race. Don't know what road to take. One wrong turn at the blink of an eye changed his fate. One wrong turn at the blink of an eye changed his fate.
Fantastic. So you've obviously played around town and done your things.
Mm-hmm.
Bangtail, that was being served yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and got a little pride there in you about that product too, right?
Oh yeah.
What's that done for you as a songwriter? Having, you've got another business, you've got this business, and you've got you as the business. You've got three things happening in the mix.
Yeah.
How do they all play?
Connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anybody ever asked me if any of these things would have ever connected, I would have thought they were full. But what's really unique about this is, like I said, everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
And, back at home, when I built that solar company, I built it to serve the community that built me, right? And I work with a lot of people at University of Florida, the Cattlemen's Division. We built an endowment fund, raise scholarships for students, supporting against their IFAS Ag department. We have a cattle ranch with a classroom that was put in our name, and that building is a space to educate these kids, to kind of train and give them the experiences to be the next generation of farmers, ranchers, working with first ride colts and mares, equestrian water therapy, hydroponics and aquaculture, and preservation or from like native plants, and then grass-fed cattle, beef. So there's all these different like veins of that, and I was like, how does that connect to music, country music and whiskey, of course? Well, by building that, most of my customers are blue collar. They're ranchers, they're farmers, they're middle class. What do they consume? They consume whiskey. What else do they consume? Country music. And it's been such a cool journey because every time I do go back to play shows in Florida, as I continue to grow and become more credible as an artist, then those crowds get bigger. those farmers come up and thank me. Those you know those whether it's the linemen or the other guys that are ranch hands, or whether the guys that are in construction and heavy equipment back in Florida. A lot of those guys come to my shows, and it's just so cool to see that synergy and that connection. They're like, man, I love your music, I love your whiskey. You support our local community through the next generation of youth coming up, and that's what country music is about. It's a lifestyle. It's not a look. It's not oh, you dress up in a cowboy hat and you wear boots, or you're a girl and you wear all the glimmer and glitz. It's not about that. It's the hard work, and it's the the grassroots, the family connections, the community connections. It's bringing people together in a space that otherwise would have never had the opportunity. It's showing what's possible.
It's really cool because we've talked a couple times, and you always branch out to another area with me. For how often do you get to tell this side of who you are?
Not as often as I want, but I feel like the time's coming because like I said, I've put a lot of time in this town, and I got a lot more time to put in. This wasn't like come here for a year or two and then, well, no, it's, I'm committed to make this, my life's work, so, the next 30, 40, 50 years that I have, whatever that time is given on our earth, I want this to be the focal point, and I want to be able to share this message. And every show I play, every artist that I get to open for on a bigger scale, every headlining space or tour that I get to create for myself, I want that people to see, like, this is what I came from to where I got to. This is who you are. This is what you want. Like, if you do this, this, and this, let me give you kind of like a framework, a pathway to pave the way for giving you the mentorship, the inspiration to pursue your passions at the highest level. Don't let anybody get in your way.
Right.
Don't let anybody try to derail you. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose people that whether it's family members or people you grew up with, people you work with, that are going to be like, jealous, and they're going to be envious. You're only jealous of enemies because they can't do it. Right. It doesn't matter.
So Songwriter Souls, when I started this, it was really based on meeting all of you over the last 7-8 years of my wife and I going down to Songwriters in Key West. And there's something to be said with inspiring people. Mm-hmm. You're doing that. Appreciate and your story, the past people that I've already interviewed, the futures that I have already scheduled, that's where the soul came from in Songwriter Souls. Each of you have your own soul, mm-hmm. and you've really kind of made me get goosebumps even today, just because I've learned so much more about you. And I think that's the essence of songwriters, and actually coming to Nashville and just saying, yeah, I did Broadway, I don't need to do that again. Let's go out and figure out what's real in Nashville, which is the backside of Nashville to me, which is going out and just listening to songwriters and then meeting you and getting to learn your journey. And that's mm-hmm. what this show is all about. And truthfully, that's what your life is. Mm-hmm. And you're just trying to build that for everyone else.
That's right.
And what's really cool is you've been able to branch off, mm-hmm. but stay real mm-hmm. and true to yourself.
Right.
What's that mean to your family?
My mom and dad, I feel like to some degree they get to live vicariously, like through me, and it's been so much fun having them a part of that, because I'm only child, so it's like, they want nothing but the best for me, and when they got to see where it started and where it's gotten to over the last, 5 years, it's been like such a blessing to them, and they just want to continue to provide that support, whether they come to a show here and there, or, whether they're helping me when I'm, hopping on a phone call sometimes, like just little things, they're so grateful. And they live back down in Florida in that Margaritaville retirement community, you know. And so like all their buddies and stuff, they're always on their golf carts, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere getting drinks and listening to music, and they're always like, I'm listening to Brandon. I just saw the new song, man. Kevin, Sean, I watched the video. It's like, man, this is so awesome. And it's a cool thing, man. Like when your parents like hit you up and send you a picture of like friends of theirs, and they're like cheers in, like, man, you know, here's one to you, and man, we put this on this playlist, or we're downloading that. I'm like, cool, man. Like it's getting around. So let's keep going.
You know, how's that? And I have to ask, because music affects everybody differently, and you've talked about the history of some of the songs and stuff, but what makes Brandon tick in music? What does it for you?
Yeah, the people. Every show. I used to be I was probably one of the worst people, like at the beginning of like stage, I guess not stage presence, just uncertainty. Like I would keep it all bottled up. I was like, I can't be, you know, rowdy, and I gotta sit here, you know, and just play. And I was like, I saw other artists that were obviously, you know, staples and a lot bigger, and I was like watching. I was like, who inspired me? And then I was like, these individuals, they do what they want. I mean, that's everybody that knows Brandon Bing knows Brandon does what he wants when he wants. So it's like, I'm like, what's the fear of sharing that with these people?
Right.
The moment I did that, I'll never forget it. I was doing a show at the Barn in Sanford, and I played my first full band show for my first release, which was my Florida Man EP back in 2020. And I'm playing, rocking out on stage, just jumping around. I loved it. I was sweating everywhere. I was like, man, I got my workout in, you know, in this 90 minutes. And there's people in the crowd that have friends like intentionally looking at me and stuff. And I remember like throwing my guitar behind my back, jumping down in the dance floor, like coming up and like playing, you know, my song, you know, like up at people, like, you know, and like singing the lyrics to a couple ad-libbing, like spinning a girl around, like that was there with some friends, just having a good time. And it just kept so much energy, and it just rushed and rushed and rushed. It was such a high. And then when it was done and the lights went off, and I was just like, man, that was awesome. And then from that point on, I've just built on that. And I spent the last, 3-4 years now, just every time I get in a crowd, talk to them more direct, be more tongue in cheek, say more, one line, add little like comedy lines, like make them laugh, like, and just that infectious like energy is such a rush, not just to me and to the band, but it's a rush to them. And then when it's done, I get off the stage, put the guitar down. Hey, guess what? I'm one of you.
Yeah.
We're just like each other. Guess what? We put our Wranglers on, our boots on the same way each day. And they come over to the merch booth. I'm sitting at the merch booth. I'm slinging merch. I'm signing hats. I'm signing boots. I'm drinking shots. We're taking pictures. And I'll sit there for 1, 2, 3 hours. However long I got to do till everybody that came to that show that night feels that I gave them every ounce of me.
Fantastic.
And that's all I want.
You know that it's you've got to, you use this word, the vibe, and you do have the vibe. You've got this cool little vibe to you when you're in on stage and in any venue that I've ever seen you in. You've just talked to everybody. You're smooth. What made you transition? Because you had to have transitioned into that.
Yeah.
And what would you tell someone who is transitioning?
Yeah, I think you need to self-reflect, and you need to find out what is your main focus with these songs. What is your main focus as an artist? Which you said earlier was, you can have your hands in other businesses, and all the most successful artists have their hands in multiple businesses. If you really look at their portfolio, sure. Right?
Absolutely.
Because they can't just, they got to have other things to keep things around the seasons. But when you focus in on your passion, and you focus in on that, and you commit to that, then the rest just comes part of that ride. It becomes a momentum boost. But if you're not honed in on your style, your delivery, your branding, like you're a walking billboard 7 days a week. Social media, because we have to be on it every day.
Sure.
You have to do it at shows. You got to do it at social gatherings, just like last night, being at a writer's round.
Yep.
You got to do it out and about when you're around. You got to be a character. It's funny. We're sitting here in the songwriters lounge that I have in my house, and obviously behind me is a picture of Johnny Cash.
Correct.
And I had the opportunity to go to the Bon Aqua to Cash's house, his property out there, with his nephew. And Mark Allen Cash had told all these stories, and it was cool. I was there, so this writing situation, right? And he was I came dressed like normal, and I always wear black. I just always wear black, and obviously he was the original Man in Black. And it's like I always tell people, I said, all these great. Earlier I said there's a shift. There's a new generation, the next generation of writers and artists. He was the original Man in Black. All these other greats, like the Whalens, the Paychecks, the Loretta Lynn's, the Patsy Clines, all those. We can go down the rabbit hole of names.
Big time.
and they've done, all the way up to the Possums and David Allan Coe's. Like they had something that was unique, but they were all characters. They all had something that made them stand out, that differentiated them from everybody else. Whether it was like the outlaw vibe, or whether it was the pop up, like the Hank Senior wearing the suits and
that character's still alive.
Right, and it's still alive. It's timeless. It's that soul, like your songwriter souls. Like it's kind of a direct correlation to that, right? Because it's like a body will die, but a soul will live forever.
Yep.
And I want it when people see me, they know Black Stetson, Rattlesnake Man, black shirt, gold chain, boots. Like they see this image, and then it matches also with my personality and everything. It's like I know who I am. I know who I am in my skin. I don't have to question who I am. And I think that's where the transition lies. When you really truly know who you are, it's easy. It's not hard to be who you are when you are who you actually are supposed to be. But it takes a certain person or a certain breed got to be built different to be able to accept that, and you got to use that and build on those strengths and make it better and better. Don't sit here trying to emulate, oh, so-and-so's hitting on the thing. Yeah, there's good for media and socials, but you're not going to be, Morgan Wallen is Morgan Wallen. You can't be, Chris Stapleton is Chris Stapleton. The chief is the chief, Bo Cephas is Bo Cephas. Like, Travis Tritt is Travis Tritt. Those guys, they did that.
But you're not going to be them.
You're not going to be them.
Right.
Be you. Be you. Let them inspire you, and be you going forward, and be that, so that one day someone else can say that about you.
Be you and be true to be you.
That's right. And do nothing less but be authenticity is the best thing you got.
This has been really a cool little interview.
Yeah.
We've got one song in.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should have another one.
Sure.
And I'll let you kind of think of that for a second. But this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about you and a lot about the industry through your vision.
Yeah.
And also the encouragement that you would have for others to not just think about what you're doing with your songwriting and producing and different things like that, but never stop looking for an opportunity business-wise to branch out, because you're connecting all those things together. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna hit this one. This was on my Dying Breed EP, and with a lot of things been going on. A lot of people just need to know. I tell this story every time I go out. I'm like, traveling on the road, playing in different venues, meeting new people. You realize how much being from America, why so many people around the world want to be and come to our country, right? And I've traveled to a couple places outside the United States, but I realize more and more every day how beautiful this country is, and how much history there is, and how much that connects people around the United States. That country is countrywide in that aspect. Not to be cliche, just like you really see the different styles between similarities and differences when you go from Florida to Texas to Montana to Michigan to Maine or Connecticut. Like you go to these different spaces, but then you're like, man, like I went to upstate New York for the first time, and I was like, I didn't know y'all had vineyards up here. I didn't know you had farmland up here. And it was like, and it's not even just because they can't have farms. You don't think about it. You just think metropolis. Sure. You think about New York City. You're not thinking about the outlier. And those are things like that like humble me. And I was like, when I wrote this song, I'm American, I was like thinking about the places I've been to and places I want to go to, and how that defies me and other people, to make them feel like they're understood, that their part of country is being represented in the best way of like what they come from. And like, you're proud of where you come from, and I'm proud of where I come from. This one's I'm American, so.
Absolutely. I wore the right shirt.
Yeah. I'm shit talking, I'm a dirty walking, crazy hooligan. I'm a dirty boy sitting in the south side of New Orleans. I'm a cowboy action gun toting rowdy heathen from the gunshine state. I'm a one shot kill, ask questions later like John Wayne. I'm a Wild West outlaw like the boys from the Lone Star State. I'm a barefoot bandit country bumpkin walking through this old Georgia clay. Proud of this old town, made this boy great. Proud to be a product made in the US of A. Come from a broadcloth, don't take no shit. I just bleed red, white, and blue, y'all. I'm American. I'm a howl at the moon long work on a Montana night. I'm a backcountry boy walking past with a guiding light. Shine so bright like the Alaska Northern Lights. I'm just a grizzly bear, yeah, I like to fight. I'm a hoot owl in the bamboo swamp. Squeal, piggy, squeal, watch when I come for you. Proud of this whole town, make this boy great. Proud to be a product made in the US of A. Cut from a broadcloth, don't take no shit. I just bleed red, white, and blue, y'all. I'm American. I'm a gobble gobble cock-a-doodle doodle when the sun comes up. I'm that woody woodpecker pecking as a tall pine and sway. Hit you like an axe, cut your roots away. I'm a slither, I'm a coil, don't see me coming. Strike you like a rattlesnake or a copperhead. Swift in the river like a moccasin, you just dread. Circle life, only the strong survive. I'm the real deal, partner, it's not your lucky night. Proud of this old town, made this boy great. Proud to be a product made in the US of A. Cut from a broadcloth, don't take no shit. I just bleed red, white, and blue, y'all. I'm American. We just bleed red, white, and blue. We're American.
So, how do people find you
Sure.
right now? I seriously, we've been talking about 40 minutes or so, and the biggest thing is how can they follow you?
Yeah, so, all my socials, you can go directly. Best thing, go to my website. If you go to Brandon Bing Music,
Uh-huh.
then go to brandonbingmusic.com. I'll be putting updates coming up in the next month or so for tour dates and shows that I'm going to be doing between now and the end of the year. And also on my socials, anything, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Brandon Bing Music. And then I'll check out my whiskey, Bangtail whiskey as well. It's on all the socials. And, enjoy some live music on the rocks, original live music with great people. Have a good time.
Yeah. And follow Songwriter Souls
That's
because
it.
I'm positive that any updates that you're going to
Come
do,
on.
I'm going to share them out
I'm
there.
gonna have to tag you in all these things.
Absolutely, absolutely, because this really cool town and other areas, it's really going to be a hopefully a central location for everybody to push their product out.
Yep.
Their new releases.
Yep.
And I really want to make that work for you guys as a whole because the family that you guys have created, uh, I've learned to appreciate and love.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hope that we're inspiring others right now with videos like this to appreciate the hard work and the effort and all those things that you guys put into your craft.
Appreciate it.
And you're right. Earlier, you said the music out there wouldn't be out there if it wasn't for the songwriters that are producing it. A lot of performers aren't really true songwriters.
Correct.
But they can perform,
Right.
and they have a voice, and they have backing. I don't think it was you, but maybe somebody else last night said that this town is really controlled by about 100 people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and
it is. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting from the perspective that most people in the world don't understand that.
Right.
They turn on the radio, they have what they want, which is current music that's out there. But they never really experience where it actually came from.
Right.
Do you have friends that you look back on now from the athletic days that are going, I didn't know he played?
Yeah, I do.
What do you what happens there?
Well,
I think
that's
you get this you just kind of lit up a little bit. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, they just because they're like, wait, you never played guitar around me. I never saw you do this. You never did that. And it's like, but they were so focused on pursuing the sport, and they weren't, we would hang out, and even friends that I had from being from line dancing and two stepping over the years. Like there's certain ones that cling that would come and see me in those spaces when I would do those pop ups and stuff, but it wasn't they looked at it like, oh, he's just playing around right now. He's not serious. Like it's in their mind, it's not going to go anywhere. And why is it not going to go anywhere? Not because, maybe either one or two things. Either A, they don't want it to go somewhere because they don't want to see you succeed. And there's a lot of people that you're close and around. And this is one thing I found. I've been around a lot of people over the years that I thought were really great friends of mine. And then, in today's time, I realized, man, like you weren't. You didn't. You claimed to care about me. You might have cared about me because I was creating opportunity for you, or I was doing things that was helping you for your ultimate gain. So you were befriending me because, hey, I can get him he's going to do this anyway. So why not let me ride his coattail and get a little piece of the pie along the ride for as long as I can.
Sure.
And just nothing but a leech. And then you have other people that, I support you. I'm always going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to do these things. And then they come and they stab you in the back. And they do things that are, they do things out of character that they collect from what you knew them for the character you thought that they were. You realize that they're nothing but a piece of shit anyway. Like they're not anybody that's, worth it. And they're not worth my time. So it's like, you can take your toxicity and hang around with those individuals, and you might think you can one up me, or you might think you can, knock me off track. But The one thing you don't got that I got is you don't have that dog in you. You know?
Yep.
So if you want to come to the yard and take the chains off, see who's alive at the end, because I promise you I will be and you won't.
Right.
And that's the difference between me and them. I'm gonna fight claw tooth and nail to let anybody that tries to get in my way understand that that's the worst possible thing that they could do, is try to get in my way. And at the same time, I'm gonna sit there and continue to commit and push and sacrifice for the greater good of everybody that is supporting me. And I saw a quote, I think I had posted one time on my story: the people that are around you, that are like your friends or people supposed to support you, don't. And the complete stranger is one of your biggest fans and supporters. And it's because you connected with them. They don't know you from Adam. They just know that they connected with you.
Correct.
On this song, on this part of their soul.
Yep.
Right? And inadvertently, they want to be there. And they want to be there for the long haul, because they see the value that you brought to them for someone that they didn't even know.
Right.
And it brought them in a time when they were probably at the lowest of the low, or even if it was at the highest of the high. It kept them balanced. People that are around you that you've known for so long, it's like that whole keep your friends close or your enemies closer, or blood is thicker than water. All that stuff is true. But I really feel like, you say keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but the friends wind up actually being the strangers, and the enemies wind up being the people that you thought that you could trust that were your friends.
Isn't it crazy? It's kind of crazy when you lay it out and you think about it. And through all these changes in your life, there's pieces of that pie with each business that you open.
Mm-hmm.
So you're balancing 3 different brands,
Mm-hmm.
and focused on the main one, which is
Music.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But that balance with all the people that could influence you negatively.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask this, I don't tend to ask a negative question, but I think you'll turn it positive. What do you do with that negative energy? How do you correct it? As the person you are, what do you do with that negative vibe that somebody throws at you? How do you flip that?
I do 2 things. From a creative space, it gives me more fuel to my fire. It's like just let the kerosene, just let it burn, right? I'm blazing a trail. So I take that negative energy and I open up harder and harder and just become even more vulnerable every time I put a pen to a paper. When I write a song, and that's why I'm so locked in now on these songs. That's why I'm so locked in on where I am now. I needed all of that to get to this point.
Right.
Now I'm here. And now I'm not going anywhere, because I did all that, the front part of the last 5 years. Now going forward, this is going to be not easy, but it's going to make sense. The other thing is, you got a negative situation, you want to try to knock me off, I'm just going to smile. I'm going to smile. I'm going to keep my eyes tunnel vision, like a horse on the track. Finish line's here. You're not.
This don't
guess
mean
what?
anything.
You're in my periphery. You mean nothing.
Yeah,
You're useless.
This don't mean nothing.
It means nothing. You can sit here and, it's like Jesus carrying a cross. He was beat and whipped and whipped and whipped and whipped over and over and over again, all the way through the town, all the way to the ultimate sacrifice of his crucifix, right? He went through that for us. He endured that for us. If he can do that, this ain't nothing.
Right.
Anybody doing this ain't nothing. Getting cracked with a bullwhip, trust me, that's something.
Yeah.
You just doing this, all you're doing is it.
Okay.
And guess what? I'm going to strip you apart in the most eloquent way, because you're going to see my progress. And when you see my progress and my momentum, and you see that you can't stop it, eventually what's going to happen? This right here is going to slowly go away.
That's probably one of the best pieces of advice that you could give anybody
100%.
that's doing this, or anything that they think is worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
That's these moments that the soul, the soul of the writer, the soul of the song, the soul of the journey, in multiple products that you're doing. That's why there's success. I think it's really cool that the University of Florida and that whole, that I didn't even know about that connection, and I find that fascinating as all get out. That you are sitting here as the songwriter from Key West with me, and there's layers to you that are deeper than just songwriters.
Oh yeah.
And I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that.
I am. I'm a fan. You know that anyway.
I appreciate that, John. Yeah.
This is why we're doing and I say that because we're all on the journey at this point. But this is why this is what it is.
Right.
And I'm just happy that you were part of the show. And Songwriter Souls is not going anywhere. And Brandon, I'm so glad you're sticking around, and I'm proud of you.
Appreciate you, John.
Thank you so much. Will you take us out with one last song?
Yeah. Sweet darling, yell out the way you're walking as you come around this whole way. Like the way your pearly white smile, let me pretty freckles and dimples on your face. Your eyes got me hypnotized, my back's up against the wall. You're the captain of this ship, girl, drop the sail down and let the wind blow. Locked down like a ball and chain, girl, I'm drowning in your heart. Your love like a shot of whiskey, girl, you warm me to the core. Drop the needle in the groove of this vinyl, girl, watch me spin you around. Wrapped up in the web of your soul, girl, you got me so high. Even a stone me can't touch the ground. Couple days later, sitting on the backside of this old county road. Couldn't seem to get you out of my head, girl, you got me yearning for more. Crazy thoughts running through my mind, felt like I was in a dream. Sitting on the edge of this old branch, it snapped and we were swimming in a creek. Locked down like a ball and chain, girl, I'm drowning in your heart. Your love like a shot of whiskey, girl, you warm me to the core. Drop the needle in the groove of this vinyl, girl, watch me spin you around. Wrapped up in the webs of your soul, girl, you got me so high. Even a stone me can't touch the ground. Play the strings with me. Devil sitting on my shoulder, I cannot win. Take me away, girl, show me what you're missing. Don't wanna be your cloud of smoke, wanna be your tunnel vision. Breathing, locked down like a ball and chain, girl, I'm drowning in your heart. Your love like a shot of whiskey, girl, you warm me to the core. Drop the needle in the groove of this vinyl, girl, watch me spin you around. Wrapped up in the webs of your soul, girl, you got me so high. Even stone me can't touch the ground.
Hone your craft. Keep honing your craft.
Yes, sir.
I'm proud of you. I've said that to you. I love the words that you've said today with the fact that you're still getting coaching, and you're an athlete who's still getting coaching.
That's right.
That's important, and that takes you from here to here,
That's
right? So stick with what you're doing, stick with what you know, and what would you tell everyone out there right now about their start of their journey?
Lay it all on the table, and never look back with anything that you put out, whether it's a song that you're a writer or whether it's a show that you perform. Always make sure that you leave it and have no regrets. You always need to use this as the biggest opportunity to tell your story, because there's somebody somewhere that wants to hear your story, and it's going to require you to be vulnerable enough and committed enough to be able to do it. But if you do, there's absolutely no limit to the level of success and reach that you can have to changing people's lives.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it, bro.
Thanks so much.